30 songs, 7 days to learn them. And yep, 5 of them I've never even heard of. I'm going to need a miracle or some process to get me confident for this gig. So I'm going to put my system to the test. I'm Twisty, and if you've ever had that last minute gig or substitution dumped on your lap, you know the panic. Some songs you know cold, some songs you've heard of, and there's those songs that you've never heard of before. I didn't even know they had bass when they were playing The Gambler. It's Friday. I got a call this morning from a mate saying that their current bass player can't make the gig next Saturday. Sure, I said. I'm a professional. How hard can it be? Send me through the set list and we'll go from there. Lock me in. Well, the set list's arrived and they're right, it's going to be a fun night. Bit stressful for me though. 3 sets, 10 songs per set. That's a total of 30 songs. 5 of them, I know, played them before, no problem. 20 of them, I've heard on the radio. The last 5, I've never heard of before in my life. Who does country and western in a rock band? Anyway, this can all be a bit daunting and I must admit, a little scared, but confident. A lot of bass players when faced with this ordeal either wing it, totally unprofessional, or they over practice and over prepare. Neither is ideal. So I'm going to use a 7-step process that I've refined over the years that I use to break down complex tasks like a 30-song set list into chunkable, achievable parts. I'm going to take you through the process I use to get me through this gig next Saturday. And at the end, we'll see how I go. Let's have a look. If you're auditioning for an established band or you're subbing in for somebody who's not able to make it, like in my case, then learning a bunch of songs is pretty standard practice. However, normally for an audition, they usually pick maybe 5 songs and they usually talk to you about which ones you want first. Sometimes if you're lucky, otherwise it's here's 5 songs, come to the audition. So everyone's being measured against the same set of songs. But in this case, like when you're subbing, you've got to learn the entire gig and that's 30 songs for me. This can be a daunting task and sometimes it doesn't feel like there's going to be enough hours or days to be able to get and break these big rocks down into feeling confident enough to be able to stand up in front of a paying audience and play. So here's the set list I've been given. And as you can see, it's more like 46 songs than 30 songs. So it's even harder than I thought it was going to be. Dreams, I'm guessing that's Fleetwood Mac. April Sun, Proud Mary. Okay, no idea what Teardrops is. Chattahoochee. Wagon Wheel. In Australia, Wagon Wheel's a chocolate bar, so no idea. All right, Sweet Caroline. Oh, okay. Man, I Feel Like a Woman. Okay, I've played that before. Old Time Rock and Roll, that should be pretty easy. Summer of '69, played that. Okay, some In Excess. Okay, White Wedding's got a bit of a bass riff that I usually struggle with, so I'll have to go and do that. All right. Okay, Brown Eyed Girl's got a riff, I think, that's bass heavy. Okay, well, that's where I'm going to start with. Let's see how I'm going to chunk it up. So for me, it's about having a process to break everything down, make it easier to consume. That takes the anxiety out of it. I know I've got a process I can get through, and at some point, the songs will be in a state that I can actually play to. Might not be, like I've been playing them for years, but I'll be able to get through the gig in a professional way. So step 1 is where you get your hearing engaged, and so you can audibly listen as you're trying to learn and play along to them. So the first thing I do is I create a playlist. Now I'm using Spotify. You could use YouTube, you could use Apple Music, you can use whatever you want. And what I've done is I've created a song playlist, 45 songs, 2.5 hours worth of music, and I've put them in the same order that they're playing for the set. So the first 14 or so are set 1. The next one is set 2, etc. So I can now listen to this, whether I'm walking the dog, I'm in the car, I'm doing whatever I'm doing, I can listen to that and I can start getting to know the songs, the groove, the timing, how they sound, the starts and stops. Without actually having to play anything, I can hear it. I recently saw an interview with Lee Sklar where he used this same process to learn an entire set for a Toto gig that he had to play in 2 days. Now I've got 7 days, but he had to learn an entire, 2.5 hour Toto set, and those guys are on fire within 2 days. And he basically used this process, listening to it and playing along in his head. So as you're listening to this playlist in your car or wherever you're doing it, try and picture how you're playing the grooves. You may not get the notes right, but at least you can try and, the G, the G, the G, oh, it's the da, da. So you can start playing along and get the feel for it, even though you don't actually have your instrument in your hands. The next thing we need to do is create a chord chart set list. Now you can create these with pieces of paper, you can buy a music book, you can put it in a Word or a Google Docs document, or you can use an application. So I've been using Band Helper for a number of years now, not sponsored. I've been using it for years, predominantly use it as a set list that I run on my iPad, but which allows me to drill in and then have a look at the chords and the lyrics behind it when I need them. And I use it for this process. So let's have a look at how I use Band Helper. And again, you can use anything else. Band Helper is free up to a certain number of people. So you can share it with the whole band, but you can use it for free. So you can see I've created a set 1, which is aligned to the set of the one they sent me. I've got set 2 and I've got set 3. So to create this, I'm basically going through and editing the song lists, and then I'm adding songs or moving them around. I can grab them and move them in order if I put them in the wrong order. And I can go and edit them. So if I just look at the first one, if I add a song, now if I've got the song already in my library and I've played it before, so for example, if I'm looking at, Van Halen 5150, I can add that because it's in my library. I've already gone through this process in some other set list or created that song list in my library. I can just add that in. And where I don't, I can go to new song and I'll just pick, Proud Mary, because that was the first one I saw. I can give it the artist, Creedence Clearwater Revival. You see I've used them before. And then the 2 key things that I like out of this application is lyrics and chords, and also video. So if I click on this, it'll take me to YouTube and it'll show me a video of the song. But what I can also do is I go to lyrics and it pops up a link to be able to find the lyrics. So I can now click on here and I can then copy and paste the lyrics for Proud Mary, and I can put them into this lyrics section. Then I can look at chords and it'll do the same thing. It'll pop up a list of places I can either learn how to play it on guitar, or I can click on here and get the ultimate guitar chord structure. Now I can click on here and it shows me, how to play it if I'm a guitarist, but I'm not. And it won't show me the bass tabs or the bass things, but it's giving me the chord structure. So that all I do is I go through and as I add the song, I add the basic chords. Now, why do I use chords instead of tab? At the end of the day, I've got 7 days to learn 40 something songs apparently, or learn 30 songs, right? So if I run out of time when we get to the gig, I may not have all the finite bass riffs nailed for all of the intricacies of a song nailed for the gig, but I'll at least have the root notes to play along to and a groove that I'm familiar with. So I go with the chords first and then I build out from that, as you'll see in the next few steps. So in this step, I'm going to pick the songs that I already know, and I'm going to play through those first to make sure that I do remember them and that the chords I had in there from previously or I've updated are actually correct. I still put the chords in for the songs that I know because when you're in the gig and you forget, you're going from one song, you go, and you get an isolate part, you can quickly look at it and go, oh yeah, starts in D or starts on a G sharp, etc. So if I look at one that I'm quite familiar with is April Sun in Cuba by an Australian band named Dragon. I've got, the bass, I've called them chords, but that's basically the bass notes. There's the intro verse, the chorus, the bridge. I've given myself a note to start playing octaves on the D string. Then down here with this capo stuff, that's where the guitarist uses the same set list of the same chord chart for this song for his guitar stuff. That's why I've got bass chords and guitar stuff. I've also got the lyrics down there in case I need to refer to them, or if I'm doing backing vocals, it's good to know what I'm singing in the backing vocals. So some of the benefits of using Band Helper instead of pieces of paper or a Word document is that I can now share this set list and the chords and the lyrics with the rest of the band. So if the guitarists don't know what they're doing, they can at least look at the chord structure and they can start playing to the same thing in the same key, etc. I can also use it for automation. So if you check the video up above, I'll show you how I use Band Helper to control my Helix. So now we've got a audio playlist and a written set list with chord charts. Let's have a look into step 3. Step 3 is where we start to then break that down and make sure that the chords that we put in are accurate. Now to get through this in a progressive approach, I'm going to go through the songs I know first. Do those. Then I'm going to start working in reverse. I want to start looking at the songs I've never heard of before because they're the ones who are likely going to cause me the most problem, and then move into the ones that I have heard of before but never played. And so this is where we're going to start writing things down as well. So whilst I'm using an app, it's easier for me to then write with a pen on a piece of paper or using some TAD paper like I've created here, and you can get them in the link below, or if you want to buy the book version, you can get that on Amazon, or you can just use a blank piece of paper. As we start going through, I'm going to be looking at the chords that I've captured in the chord chart. I'm going to be listening to the song and I'm going to be playing along. So now I've got visual, muscle, and audio all working together to help me learn faster. And as I'm going through, if I hear the chords wrong, then I can write that on the bit of paper, make sure I've got it right, and then later come back and update the app or your major chord chart with that as you're going. And hopefully there's not too many differences. As I'm going through this process, I like to use headphones because I find the headphones allow me to block off any outside noise and help me to focus in on what the bass is doing. Often you'll find the song, the bass is mixed quite low, or some of the subtle parts that they're playing are hard to pick up. So I find doing this process with headphones on or in-ears allows you to hear that a lot cleaner than sitting at your desk listening to through your monitors. In some of the later steps, you can get rid of the headphones and just play along to your monitors. But I find the headphones in this initial discovery phase make it a lot easier to hear. So in step 3, we're going through those songs that we already know. As we move into step 4, we're going to hit those ones we don't know. It's the same process. Listen, look, write down the differences, and then move on to the next song. In these first 3 and 4 steps, we're looking to get through as quickly as we can so we've got an accurate outline of the song structure, verse, chorus, bridge, whatever it is. The chords are correct, or at least the root notes that we're going to have to play along to are correct, and you know what the changes are going to be. Ah, no, not that. No. So by the time we get to the end of step 4, we should have played each song at least once, if not 2 to 3 times. Focusing on the ones you've never heard and then the ones you have heard. Now's the time to start getting into the more nitty gritty in step 5. So for step 5, now I'm breaking it down from the 3 categories I had of heard it, not heard it, know it. I'm now moving into 2 categories, which is I can play it and I'm learning it. So in this step, I'm going to drill into more detail on each of the songs. I'm going to listen for the riff or the groove that I need to put in to enhance those root notes. So no longer I'm just playing a G, walking line. I'm now playing a riff that goes with that, or there's a specific key bass line that needs to be in the song that I have to make sure I've captured and I nail it. Now often it's very hard to hear what they're actually playing. You can hear there's something, but you can't quite pick the note up. There's 2 tricks I try here. The first one is try playing up an octave to play the higher notes to see if you can work it out, and then go back and use that at the lower end. Or if it's a fairly complicated riff or groove and you can't quite pick it up, and this is where you go to the internet looking for if someone has created a tab for it, or there's sheet music if you can read that and prefer it. My warning to you though is, much like the chords, anything on the internet is not necessarily accurate. And so what you find is sometimes looking for the tab will also take you down a rabbit hole that you weren't ready for. It's in the wrong key, or they've played it on a 5-string and you've got a 4-string, or there's those certain things. But again, if you're looking for it as a reference, I can't quite hear that last note. Oh yeah, that's the note. Then add that in. And the reason I use these sheets is so that I can write the chords at the top and then capture any of the tab or notation in the bottom section. So I've now got on one sheet that. The challenge I have with Band Helper is it doesn't take tabs, but there is a note section and you can upload your hand-drawn tab if that's what you want to do. Try not to play each song too many times. You'll start to get into a bit of frustration and fatigue. Listening to the same song over and over and over again is where you start to not be able to hear the bass anymore, or you can't tell that you're playing something different. I try to play it maybe 3 times at the most and then move on to the next song. In our process, we're going to be going through and repeating each of these songs over and over, but in succession, which means that I'm not over fatiguing myself on that one song. So it's a D. Nope. By the end of step 5, each song that we're going to have to play at the gig, we should have played at least 3 to 4 times. And we should be confident that at a bare minimum, the chord structure is correct. And we have some level of familiarity with the way the song's going to be. So what we've now got is an audio guide with our playlist, a visual guide with our chart, and we also have some muscle memory starting to form because we've been playing along to the songs. Let's start looking into step 6. Step 6 is where we now start to pull it all together and start practicing for the gig. Up until now, we've been learning the songs. Now we're going to be practicing the songs for the gig. So we're going to start in set order, starting with song number 1 and going all the way through. At the end of set 1, break, come back to it, and then start set 2. Have a break, set 3. So you're basically playing this as if it was a gig. Now you might find that at this stage it's day 3 or 4, and you might do set 1 one day, set 2 the next day, etc. How you fit this in is you're going to have to do with your own time management. But the idea is I'm playing a set to completion. I'm playing the next set to completion, and I'm playing the next set to completion. Listening to it, looking at it, and making adjustments as I go if I need to. What I tend to find is the more I listen and play along, the more I'll then start to groove into the song, and I'll start hearing subtleties or that I wouldn't have heard in the first couple of times playing it through, because I'm now no longer learning the chord structure. I'm now playing along to the song, and I'm now hearing things. Oh, there's a bass riff there. So again, you may have to go back, tab something out, play it, and upload it from there. What the hell? So these steps are also iterative, right? I'm building upon the first things and moving forward. And I'm being able to do this quite quickly because I've now got, as I said, those three functions engaged. I'm playing, so I'm doing, I'm seeing, and I'm hearing all at the same time, which is what accelerates it. So by the end of set 6, my list of I know it should be more like 25, and my still learning it should be more like 5. Whereas in the previous step, it was probably a little bit more reversed. It was probably still learning 20, no 10. Then we move into step 7. Step 7 is probably going to be either the morning of the gig or the day before the gig, the night before the gig. And at this point, you will have played all of the songs in set orders and be fairly confident that what you can play, even if you have to read the chart, will be okay. Now it's time to go to the gig. So you've now got a playlist, play the songs in the car on the way to the gig. As you're listening to the songs in the car, try to picture the chord chart as you're playing through. G, C, D, G, C, G, C, D, right? As you're playing. So try and play air bass as you're going through. And then there's the gig. Will I make it? I'm feeling fairly confident at the moment, but there's a couple of songs in there that are still a bit tricky. So catch you at the gig. This one's for Prince.
People tell